Okay, today we're trying a new collection from the K-beauty brand daisique. I think this brand is pretty well known in basically in every beauty community actually. Like, I feel like in the Western beauty community, in Chinese beauty community, in Japan, in Korea, this brand has quite a bit of recognition. And they recently came out with this cherry blossom collection, and I bought a whole set. Like this eyeshadow palette, which looks very cute. It looks like a cherry blossom shape. And I also have a couple, I don't know if this count as samples. It's like gift with purchase, which look very cute. But the main thing is the eyeshadow palette and these 5 single eyeshadows, which all look like a little cherry blossom, little petal. And they also have a new lip gloss, which is the Pure Water Lip Gloss. And I have the shade 15 Spring Peach, which you can see it's like in a very cute packaging. I don't know if this is available in other countries or other region, outside of Asia, but I think there's a fair amount of people from Asia that watch my channel, so in case you're wondering, keep watching. Okay, let's start from this pretty palette. Actually, there was 2 shades and I was very interested in the other shade as well. In the end, I decided to go with this one, which I believe is supposed to be the warm one. And look at this. This is not that warm at all, right? So I was like, the super cool tone one probably gonna be too pale for me. So, and this palette is so cute. It's a sakura themed, of course. There's like a dual colored one here and it's a sakura embossing. Here is the swatch. Can you tell these two? These two are the dual color sakura embossing one. I swatched this a little bit odd. I swatched it like this and to the center. And the order on my hand is like this. I hope that's not too complicated to understand. Pigmentation is entirely different. Bottom matte shades are way more pigmented than the top ones. It's not just the top one shade is lighter, it's also more sheer. Let's go with this one first. This shade is the most safe, and I love that they have like a thumb hole, even though this is supposed to mimic sakura blossom. Oh, it's surprisingly pretty pigmented for daisique. It's no Natasha Denona, of course, but for a K-beauty, especially for daisique, this is pretty pigmented. Like, you can tell I wasn't trying that hard. All of these is in a set and it's cost like $30 something, under 40. So I thought I might as well just buy the whole set. Now let's layer this pink shade. Focus on the outer half. And this one is visibly more cool toned. Like in the pen, you're gonna think this shade is stronger than this one, right? But on the eyes, it just looked like same level of depth, but a little bit cooler. Very spring. I think I actually made a good choice if I'm gonna buy one. I bought this one because the other one probably is gonna be a little bit too warm. I'm gonna use this lighter pink on the inner part. Oh, this is pretty pigmented too. I probably applied a little too much. Up until right now, it works great. And let's use this shade maybe to give this a little bit depth, because it's only color right now, not much depth. Actually, I feel like this shade is just like a touch darker than the first shade we put down. The darkest shade here. It's actually kind of nice that they put this darkest shade in the biggest pan, even though darkest shade you don't use it too much, but this palette needs some variety. I think probably most of the makeup you are gonna do, you need this dark shade. So, and this dark shade is not showing. This brown is reminding me of their other regular palettes. But let's put on the lower lash line. Maybe I just had too much powder on my upper lash line. Upper lash line? No, like my eyelids. It's showing its color. We got these 4 shades left. This is matte, which I'm thinking to use as highlight under my eyes, so I'm not using it right now. Blend these 2 together. I don't want it to be too shimmery because sometimes it makes my under eye look like puffy. Shimmer is pretty weak. You can hardly see it. This little shimmer shade, maybe we can use it as highlight afterwards. Oh, this is such a sheer shade, like you can barely see the sheen it gives. It doesn't really adhere on the eyes, probably because there's so much matte eyeshadow underneath. But I think if you're gonna provide these many mattes with a couple shimmers, you better make them layer on top of each other very well. And this is one thing about Korean eyeshadows. The mattes feel like flowers. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like flowers. It layers a thick layer without adding a lot of color. So sometimes if you want to layer some color on your eyes and then you want to layer shimmer, it's kind of hard. So I feel like in order to make this shimmer work well with these mattes, they need to put some moisture to their shimmer so it adhere better on the matte base. And I find that to be not the case for majority of Korean eyeshadows. Is their shimmer just lacks some moisture, which Japanese eyeshadows do that very well. No matter it's a sheer or like very delicate glitter or very strong one, a lot of time they has like even just a tiny little bit of moisture in it. Usually their like a base shade feels like not moist, but you know, like a little bit moisture in it type of formulation. So even if you would layer it, it wouldn't feel like you applied a bunch of flour on your eyes, so nothing is sticking right now. So it's entirely different formulations, but I way prefer Japanese eyeshadows for that reason. But this palette, normally I probably would only use like 1 or maximum 2 mattes at a time, so I might not have super big of a problem. Let's use a little bit moisture to apply this. Oh, this is definitely helping. Even with this moisture, I think you can tell there's not much happening there. Anyway, let's move on to this one. I actually really like daisique glitters, and this is the glitter formula that I'm familiar with. Again, I feel like this palette probably doesn't mean to be like applied this much on your eyes. It's probably designed to be just a vibe. They actually also gave little gifts, super small little shadow, probably supposed to go in here. I'm gonna swatch this in like a haul unboxing video because I haven't filmed that one, and because I want to do the review first. Not gonna review those because it's not like a regular product. But what is a regular product is these single eyeshadows. I actually bought them to use on my face, not on my eyes. In total, there's like probably around 10 shades, and each set get 5 of these. These 5. From here is 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Okay, 1 to 5, and 5 is a like slightly different formulation. It's a satiny shade, and I feel like 1, 2, 3, it's almost just the same shade with like a tiny little bit depth difference. Like this is 1, 2, 3. This one is 5. You can see there's a tiny little sheen there, and this is 4. So the normal matte. This is the first shade in the palette. I feel like the formulation is pretty much the same, and the color is very similar to 1, 2, 3. So I feel like if you already had this palette, you probably don't need this single line. I'm thinking, can I use this to contour? Probably asking too much. 04. Yeah, I don't think it can. It's too light. It lacks like depth. What about this shade? Yes, the shade is pretty red. Normally probably wouldn't recommend, but since we are already here, connect this a little bit. Kind of works. People's nose sometimes are red, so it's not entirely too weird. And my nose bridge looks straight in real life, and every time I look at the camera, it looks like it's crooked. It's for some reason, I don't know. The shade 3 and 4 and 5 actually on my face as blush. 3 first. Pretty powdery. I think I can see my cheeks become a little bit paler. The shade 3, not deep enough. 04. 4 has a little bit more pigmentation, a little bit more like color. I feel like probably 1, 2, and 3 are just gonna be highlighting shade for me. Pair with this eye, the shade 04 is actually pretty nice. Even though it's a very pale shade, but it still looks like a blush at least. Shade 5. I'm hoping this is gonna give a little bit sheen to the cheeks. I think it does. It's like a very subtle, but it's there. And it doesn't really have much color as well. But again, it's there. It looks paler on the cheeks than it is in the pan. I actually don't like this type of thing when it comes to blush. I prefer it's just the true pigmentation, or maybe even like more pigmented on the cheeks. But this one, it's like sheer and even paler. The camera cut me off. This is actually not my favorite type to like put on the cheeks. You might say, oh, this is like designed to use on the eyes, but I feel like if you're used on the eye, it requires even more pigmentation than it is on your cheeks. So I feel like this formula is not even as good as the palette. And I did put the shade 01 under my eyes because the camera cut me off and I didn't notice. So I don't have a footage for you, but I can put a comparison. I think this is pretty effective, but it's also pretty pink. You might not be able to tell it that much on the camera, but in real life I can see a visible pink hue. It became a little bit heavy, so I feel like this formula is just, it's not pigmented enough to be eyeshadow or blush, but it also looks kind of heavy if you're gonna use on a larger area. It's really like just what I described, like a flower type of formulation. They have a new lip formula, pure water lip gloss, and I have the shade 15, Spring Peach. I don't know, are they trying to mimic SUQQU here, or is this a star? Nonetheless, it's pretty cute. It's not my type of packaging because I low-key feel like this is a little bit childish. That's not the point here. This is the swatch. It's a pretty sheer and shiny formulation, and the doe foot applicator is actually pretty hard. It's not very bouncy one, is like very thin as well, so I guess you can get precise with this. But if you have plushy lips, it probably will take you a couple dips to do your whole lip. It didn't even have enough for my little thin lip. 3 dips for this. I prefer a bigger, not the super fat one, but at least like a paddle, because this is really a hard applicator. Like, can you tell? It's like very hard. It doesn't bend. It's like applying your lip gloss with a hard fuzzy stick. And the shade is pretty pink as well. It reminds me of the Romand. Maybe these two, 01 and 04. 04 is way more pigmented, but 01 is pretty similar, right? This is one. This is the daisique one. It tastes like fruit candy without the sweetness. To be honest, I prefer the Romand. Let's do a roundup. Today we are mostly having a fail. Not a total fail, like I can use all of these products, but none of this is gonna be my favorite. I feel like that's my entire experience with this brand. It's not super bad. At the same time, it's not the greatest item. They look cute. That's for sure. They look very cute, but every time it just has something that I don't like. This eyeshadow palette, like I said, the mattes does have some pigmentation for a cream eyeshadow. It's only good if you layer 1 or 2 on your eyes. If you use more, it just feels like it's too slippery to put anything on top. The shimmers, not so much pigmentation. Okay, let's try to use this as a highlight. These two. It's actually very pretty. Like, it has this pinky hue to it, of course. But yeah, it's not bad. It look pretty. At least I can find some ways to use these 2 shades. Because the under eye look a little bit too heavy, I did spray a lot of mist on my face. So that could also be why this is looking semi like an intense highlight. Yeah, not much to say about this. It looks like there's a lot of shades, but I don't think there's that much you can do with this palette. These 3 shades doesn't look that different on the eyes. It's just a little bit depth different. These 2 are just tiny little bit of tone difference, and this shade doesn't show up that much. This glitter is pretty nice. It's aligned with your other palettes. It's the same formula. And this is just a pinky shade as well. Even though this is a semi-big palette, it's 9 shades, I feel like it's serving the purpose of like a quad. If you don't mind like everything I said, and you can get this for a cheaper price, it's okay to purchase this if you like the concept and you like this cute packaging. But other than that, I don't recommend this. These singles, not even as good as the palette. Too heavy to use on the face because again, it's that flower-like formulation. Too sheer to use on the eyes unless you like a very light wash of color. I sometimes do like a light wash, but it's more like the Japanese makeup way of sheer wash, not this type of way. This is like giving me nothing, just like a base color at the most type of pigmentation, which I don't really like it. Gloss smells like fruit candy, taste like fruit candy. Like I can taste it so much right now, like on the back of my throat. I don't like the applicator. The packaging is cute though. I don't know what else I can say. If you want a gloss from K-Beauty, I way prefer the Romand gloss I just showed you and the gloss from Tirtir. This is actually a great gloss. If you're gonna spend money on a gloss, I recommend this formulation. Ink lasting lip gloss. And let me show you this taste. This formula, it's a different concept. This one has way more pigmentation, but the Roman one, it's more of a sheer one. Like, see this? Wouldn't you think this is a way better formula? And I wouldn't even want to use this as a daily like moisturizing my lips type of gloss because how strong of the taste it is. Lingering on the back of my throat is making me uncomfortable. I feel like I recommend none of these products from today's video, so my advice would be just save your money. I don't know if this is available outside of Asia. I know a lot of Asian people do watch my channel, so if you are wondering about this collection, I would say no, unless you don't mind any of the things I mentioned above. And that's everything. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.